We went 2-1 last night, which is exactly what happens when we let math drive and vibes sit quietly in the passenger seat. Tonight's card is simple. Real Sociedad moneyline at -130 versus Girona, Detroit Pistons -7 versus Atlanta, and Minnesota Timberwolves plus 3.5 at Golden State. Let's start in San Sebastián. A lot of people are staring at the La Liga table, seeing Real Sociedad sitting low, and doing that classic move where they confuse points so far with team quality. That's like confusing a racing stripe on a minivan with an actual sports car. Real Sociedad's chance creation has been top tier all season. The finishing has been the problem. And finishing slumps are the most temporary problem in football. They're basically weather. Girona, meanwhile, aren't unlucky. They're structurally broken, especially away from home. When a defense consistently gives up high-quality chances, that's not variance. That's a lifestyle choice. Sociedad's whole home identity is territorial dominance. They live in the opponent's final third. They force clearances, they rack up corners, and they keep the other team defending for long stretches. Against a leaky road defense, that pressure is not a maybe. It's a slow, inevitable tax. Now, I know Matt Law over at Sportsmole is calling for a 1-1 draw because both teams have injuries, and apparently that means shrug, split the points. That's the laziest form of analysis. Injury equals draw. If both teams are missing key attackers, the edge goes to the side that can still generate repeatable pressure and set-piece volume. Sociedad can. Girona mostly just generates existential dread. Add in wet conditions, and suddenly every slippery clearance and bobbling save gets magnified. And that's not the environment you want if you're already the league's most fragile defensive unit. So we're taking Real Sociedad to win at -130. Not because we're trusting the badge, but because the underlying chance profile screams that the market is discounting them like a distressed stock that still has cash flow. Alright, NBA time, Atlanta at Detroit. The spread is Detroit -7, and yes, people are going to talk themselves into scrappy Hawks keep it close. That's adorable. It's also the same logic as thinking a toddler and an expert can both guess the score, so they're equally trustworthy with your bankroll. Detroit's edge here isn't just they're good, it's that their strengths attack Atlanta's current weaknesses at the exact pressure points. Without Trae Young and with Kristaps Porzingis sidelined, Atlanta's offense loses both the engine and the spacing geometry. That means more stalled possessions, more forced drives into traffic, and more turnovers against a defense built to turn the paint into a no-fly zone. And here's where the public gets tricked. They remember the Hawks staying close in earlier meetings and assume that's predictive. But they were close once is not a plan. It's a story. Detroit is a defense and rebounding machine, and that combination is how favorites cover. Extra possessions matter. If Detroit wins the glass and ends Atlanta possessions cleanly, the Hawks don't get enough attempts to hang around. It's the slow suffocation game. Fewer second chances, fewer transition looks, more half-court misery. Also, scheduling matters. Both teams have been sitting because of the NBA Cup break, and that typically benefits the team whose identity is defense and structure. Offense needs rhythm, defense needs effort and legs. Detroit gets the legs. Atlanta gets to find out what offense looks like without the point guard who organizes it. Now let's address Philip Tomic at Pickswise, who likes Hawks plus 7.5 and says Detroit probably wins but it stays close. That's the betting equivalent of saying, this parachute probably opens, but let's jump anyway. If Detroit probably wins, and they own the possession battle, and Atlanta's creation is compromised, then close becomes the least supported part of that sentence. So we're laying Detroit -7. Last one, Minnesota Timberwolves plus 3.5 at Golden State. This game is getting priced like one thing matters, Stephen Curry's return. And nothing else exists. Curry is incredible. He's also not two people. Golden State being without Draymond Green and Al Horford strips out the brain of the defense and a chunk of the front-court survival kit at the exact moment they're facing Minnesota's size rotation. Minnesota can put multiple big bodies on the floor, and that's not just height. It's physical rebounding leverage. When Golden State is light in the front court, every defensive rebound becomes a contest, and every contest becomes a chance for Minnesota to multiply possessions. That's how underdogs cover without even shooting lights out. Miss, rebound, reset, punish. And sure, Curry can go nuclear. That's always in the distribution. But if Golden State has to win a track meet while giving up second chances and living in foul trouble down low, that's a fragile way to be a favorite. Minnesota's path to a cover is wide. Win outright, lose tight, or even get clipped by a late Curry flurry, and still cash plus 3.5. And yes, Philip Tomic is also on Warriors minus 3.5 largely because Anthony Edwards might miss. That's the key word, might. Betting an entire side on maybe the best athlete on the floor doesn't play is how people end up calling gambling rigged instead of calling it what it is, poorly reasoned. So we'll take Minnesota plus 3.5, big bodies, extra possessions, and the kind of matchup math that doesn't care how pretty the jump shots are. Those are the three. Real Sociedad, Moneyline minus 130, Detroit minus 7, Minnesota plus 3.5. Let's keep stacking edges, because a dartboard can pick winners sometimes, but it can't explain why it keeps losing your money over time.